Hello, my friends. What's up? Michael here. I'm just recording a very quick message to let you know that I'm taking a brief hiatus from the podcast. I'm just taking a quick break for the rest of summer because I'm going to focus on reopening Mark Fisher Fitness. We reopened in New York City, and I want to focus on that for the next few months. So I'm going to practice what I preach and put this project on the back burner just briefly. And while I'm taking a break from the podcast, it's going to continue. So Mark Fisher and Pete Dupuis and friends that they invite are going to continue having conversations on the podcast for the next several episodes until I'm back at the end of summer. So enjoy the episodes while I'm gone. I hope you don't miss me too much. I know I'll miss you, but enjoy these episodes and have a great summer. Bye.
Well, hello there, true believers. I am so excited for today's podcast of Business for Unicorns. I have stolen the microphone from the inimitable Michael Keeler. This will be my first go, not as a podcast interviewee, but as a host. And I feel very grateful because I have two gentlemen that I have huge respect for. Pete Dupuis, who many of you are already familiar with, one of our coaches here at Business for Unicorns, and his business partner, who I like to think of as my partner-in-law, Eric Cressey, who I'm sure needs absolutely no introduction. These two gentlemen have created Cressey Sports Performance, one of absolute monster brand in the sports performance space. And I am very excited to have them on our podcast today. I hope to potentially enroll them to do this a number of times because there's a number of things that I would like to dig in to ask them about and share with you lovely listeners. But today, one of the things that we're going to dig right into is how these gentlemen have built such an absolutely massive monster brand without paid digital marketing. So gentlemen, I guess I will leave it to you to sort of tee this off. Pete, I know you are actually preparing a talk on this very topic. So I'm wondering if you can sort of give us an introduction for how you two have thought about this and leveraged non-paid digital marketing to build such an awesome business.
Sure. Whether that talk happens or not is yet to be seen. But the topic of a October presentation in London that may or may not happen is going to be,
fingers crossed,
stealing your term, building your ground game. So let me start by saying that Eric and I did not sit down in a room with Tony Gentilcore and say, let's do this without digital advertising, because digital advertising, yes, it existed when we started. Like you could go to yahoo.com and buy a strip across the top of the stream, but Facebook advertising didn't exist. And I don't know when Google AdWords became like really huge, but it didn't have kind of the momentum that it did when we started. So it just wasn't part of the assumed methodology. When we started, there was a way that you do this, and that is you build relationships and you network with the right people, and then you leverage your affiliation with willing people, and you go from there. And so I believe that we probably we sharpened that axe before even given a chance to become reliant upon the digital piece that everybody else has since fallen into. And at that point in time, it was it was a combination of, if it isn't very broken, don't fix it. And Eric and I being like, we don't like change. We're just going to do what we do. And so I've always been a little bit threatened by digital advertising because I've never fully understood the concept of the pixel and kind of the art behind it. A lot of people are paying to outsource. But we figured out a solution that didn't require we go down that route. And the number is at $0. I don't believe we've spent $1 with Facebook or Google on advertising. Eric, that would reflect Florida as well, correct?
Yeah, to be honest, even probably more so because it's newer. It's just we haven't, as we've grown it, we haven't had time to even dig into that stuff because word of mouth has done so well for us.
Yeah. So context for those of you listening, I think is important. I really want to highlight here is, in practice, most of you are going to probably have to figure out digital marketing at some point, right? Because one thing that I think these two gentlemen, we could see is a little bit of an outlier here as far as their national brand, as far as how they've done what they've done. So if you also have Eric Cressey as your business partner, then you probably can also abscond with digital marketing. So to be explicit, we're not saying don't ever worry about digital marketing. What we are saying is many training gym owners have become reticent to leave their desk and go out into the world and build relationships. And I think it is a massive missed opportunity, particularly because digital marketing gets more complicated and more expensive every single year. And anybody's paying attention at the time of this recording, the cost per leader are absolutely skyrocketing right now for Facebook and Instagram. So if you're not doing this sort of traditional, to Pete's point, the only thing we could do 15 years ago, you're missing out on a big piece of this. So I guess from there, I'd be curious to hear, I know obviously the landscape has changed since you first started doing this. And certainly I know that now to some extent, the machine has a certain amount of volition. I'd be curious to hear when you first started doing this, take me back to that time and tell us what action steps did you two take to start to develop relationships with people that could grow your business?
You want to go or you want me to?
No, I think it's probably best that you explain who Kirk Fredericks is and how that built into our kind of dynamic. Yeah.
So just as kind of like a quick frame of reference, I moved to Massachusetts in the summer of 2006, really with 0 clients. And it just so happened that some of the first guys that jumped on board with me when I first started here happened to be high school baseball players who were familiar with some of my writing online, and just through a mutual relationship had gotten connected with us. And so it wasn't this like baseball empire from the start. In reality, what happened was those 4 guys had really, really good outcomes. One of them won state player of the year. They all became Division I baseball players. One of them led the state in home runs, and then they basically won the state championship in the spring of 2007. So what happened was their coach kind of caught wind of what we were doing. They told their teammates, the parents told their teammates. I went to games, so I got very immersed in the community. And then the Boston Globe actually ran a story on us, actually on my birthday in 2007. It's still framed in the office here. And my phone started ringing off the hook. And that's when it really became obvious that this was a viable business model. And as it would happen, Pete was finishing up his MBA that month. So we started discussing some of this, and CSP, as it's, actually was CP at the time, we've rebranded a little bit, became what it is starting in July of 2007. So, a lot of it was a function of just having those key influencers. I think we always joke about the 80-20 rule, but in this case, over the history of our business, 80% of our leads have come from 20% of our clients. The only problem is you don't know who your 20% are going to be.
Right.
It'd be nice to say that you could, easily select them out. So, the name of the game is you have to treat everybody well. You have to try to deliver, far more value than you could ever possibly extract from people in your interactions with them. But, to Pete's point, we had a couple folks on the front end who were key influencers and, really, sang our praises from the rooftops, and it made a big difference for getting us off the ground early on.
Awesome. And I'm wondering, were there any particular, because I know what I'm hearing is, and this feels very true, right? And is that, frankly, if you look at businesses acquisition and fulfillment, sometimes it's possible to be so good at fulfillment. And I mean this very much as a compliment for your crew, is you're so good at fulfillment that you just kind of get buried with word of mouth, right? So to some extent, I think that can be a valid way to go. Because I like to speak with such tough love and clarity, again, to all my listeners, I'm not sure that's the case for every single one of you, even though I'm sure and I trust you're a competent trainer. However, I'm wondering, were there any particular intentional strategies or tactics you use to develop relationships with people that were able to drive your business and send leads your way?
Yeah, definitely. I think the foundation of all of this is, Eric probably said this to me in the first week, and I'm not quoting you appropriately, but basically you solve someone's pain point, get someone out of physical pain. In this case, you're kind of their friend for life. But then he took it a step further and he said, you solve a person's child's pain point and they're indebted to you. And so that was, to an extent, the recipe. It sounds like we were being super opportunistic and looking for hurt kids, but no, we were just improving the health and lifestyle habits of impressionable young adults. And as I'm starting to realize at this stage with my boys growing up, my kids look up to people other than me. And in this case, we were kind of that like 1 degree removed from the parents, and the kids thought we were cool and they listened to what we had to say. And so we hit that pretty hard, and we tried to be role models more than anything because we catered to such a young population. But from there, this goes so deep into various degrees of established relationships with PTs, with orthopedic surgeons, with, Eric's got sports psychologists on his speed dial. Like you just want to be the top of mind when these people need to kick their users out to whatever the next thing is. And we have done that again and again with a variety of different practitioners or service providers. And we just never let those leads or conversations go cold. So we're just constantly maintaining warmth in the dialogue between us and all those people. And then beyond that, we are really intentional about not getting singularly attached to any one club, program, physical therapist. I mean, it's pretty important that we be Switzerland in all things on this front, because it's great in the short term to capture someone's entire program, but it's pretty limiting when all of their competition looks at you and says, I don't work with them anymore.
Yeah.
Gosh.
You know,
That's a great perspective.
One thing I think is, so we're effectively having a lead generation conversation, right? How do you get people in the door? And, you know, I don't want to speak for you, Mark, but I know Pete and I have had this conversation a number of times over the years, is that, you know, 99% of the gym owners we talk to think that lead generation is their biggest problem. And what they fail to realize is the number of people that are just going out the back door while they're chasing these new relationships. And what you think about when you go through this word of mouth marketing is, you know, we always break gym success down to really like 4 key entities. We talk about lead generation, lead conversion, retention, and systems. So, you know, systems and retention are somewhat, you know, kind of, consistent with one another. So they kind of intermingle a lot. Lead generation is word of mouth. But what people forget is when word of mouth happens, a lot of the lead conversion is taken care of. And that's something that, you know, Pete jokes about, is that his selling job 95% of the time is not hard. It's let them know the price points, let them know the logistics. A lot of people are pre-sold, whether it's because they've had those conversations in the stands with another parent, or they've read a blog, or they've seen me speak at a presentation, or, you know, whatever it may be. They've seen, you know, one of our coaches go out and lead a warm up for a local team. But what I think people really, really forget about word of mouth marketing is the indirect influence it has on retention. Because you think about what happens. Let's say Johnny is a teammate of Joey. When Johnny starts up, Joey is immediately a familiar face in that room. So if he decides he wants to stop going to the gym, he has to leave friends behind. And you realize that there's this immediate community that happens. And you don't get that with Facebook advertisement. You get 2 random people from different sides of New York that happen to, you know, coalesce at Mark Fisher Fitness. And then you've got to nurture that relationship. You've got to establish that community. And we work to do that. But a lot of this is taken care of. And one of the things that we've quickly realized is that beyond just the communication from client to client, when you add related services at your facility, that retention becomes even stronger, independent of how you train people, what your systems are. You know, for us at CSP Florida in-house, we have physical therapy, massage therapy, pitching, hitting, strength and conditioning. There's 5 basically services underneath one umbrella. And you might have your physical therapist, your massage therapist, your hitting guy, your pitching guy, and your strength coach all in one place. If you decide you're going to go hit with a different coach down the road, all of a sudden it basically flips your stuff upside down. You've got to make multiple trips instead of just having it as a one-stop shop. So the goal in word of mouth marketing, beyond just like getting people in the door, is to quickly help them, you know, feel that huge sense of community. And I think that gets really overlooked.
That is awesome.
Made to stick. That concept.
Yeah, so certainly. So again, takeaways, I think, for people listening, although depending on the size of your business right now, creating that robust of an ecosystem might not be appropriate for this moment of scale. One thing that is interesting to note is there's a lot of data that suggests, and I'm not going to give you the stats because I can't remember, and also 83% of stats are made up in real time by the person saying them. However, my understanding from credible people is that there is actually long-term retention value in getting individuals that come into your training gym, your facility, to buy ancillary services. And that makes sense, right? And I think there's probably a couple things that go along with that. On the one hand, first of all, you're going to expedite results. On the other hand, you know, I don't know that we can overstate this, but there is something said for people are buying in more if they're buying. And for your facility, it might be different, right? I think, again, based on your model, if you can really create a powerful set of services that are really going to help your clients achieve the results that are important to them. But you could it could be things, anything from like merch to signing up for nutrition coaching to whatever it is that really makes them I don't want to say put the claws into your facility because that sounds like terrible and opportunistic, but feels like, oh, this place is the hub. This is the place where I'm getting so much of these things. It then gets harder to pull out one piece of those services. Another thing I'm curious to hear a little bit more about is, I know, Pete, you had mentioned that it is important for you to keep those relationships warm with the people, the physical therapists, the clinicians, because I think this is a huge opportunity for many people. And I think, frankly, Mark Fisher Fitness has not done a great job with this. And I think we're only now finally getting around to being systematic about this. There is one piece is, I guess I'm curious to hear is there an intentional way that you do that? Is that formal? Do you have any systems around, we have a spreadsheet about these are our core main partners and we make sure the 3 months don't go by without us pinging with them and connecting them some way? And then the second question I have, which I'll just put a pin in for now, because I'll let you answer that first, is the Switzerland conversation. Because that's a question that I've been having as I'm thinking about developing relationships with clinicians, with people in our neighborhood. I'm wondering, is that going to feel weird because I'm trying to develop relationships with a lot of people, and invariably I'll be curious to see, because I imagine some of these individuals may be more or less competent, and I certainly want to make sure that I'm ushering my clients to people that are very good at what they do. But at the same time, to your point, Pete, I don't want to set it up where it's like, oh, MFF, they only send all their clients to this one place, so we actually hate them and we never send our clients there. So to the first question, tell me about, is there a system around keeping the relationships warm?
So to the first question, the thing to understand is, to a degree, I think this is about who you are and how you handle your life in general. I think you live a more robust, fruitful social life if you keep a lot of leads warm. You're not only friends with the people you work with, you touch base with old friends, you're somewhat consistent about that. So I think it was habitual in nature for us to make friends and keep friends is what we were trying to do. We have not got to a point where we have had to systemize it, partially because of what you said earlier in the conversation, the kind of the service provider piece, or the quality of what we're delivering is such that it does tend to just snowball into opportunity, and opportunity becomes distraction. And that distraction tends to overshadow me making a list and being like, when is the last time I talked to that chiropractor?
Right.
Right. But that would be one of the foundational plays that we would make if Eric and I were in emergency mode. And we did have an inflection point a couple years back, as you know, where we were like, we need to kind of reinvent ourselves. Team's turning over. We've lost some staff. What do? We went way back, like hard to our roots in the baseball space here. Eric was just like, we're baseball. We've lost sight of that. We need to get back to it. And that became outreach to coaches. That became better connections with summer program coordinators and directors. We went back to our basics. So it's kind of a tool in our toolkit that I could probably be a little bit better about systemizing. But at this point, it's just, what's the priority list look like? We got more volume than we can necessarily or we need to justify going out and starting revisiting that approach to keeping them warm. But for me, it's just be a good people, be someone that people want to talk to. And if you do a good enough job of keeping these situations warm, this is not a one-way street. They're doing the same thing with us. Right. And if you do actually deliver mutual value, this isn't just a purely extraction model for us. We are giving just as much as we're taking with these people. Mm-hmm. We don't need to think that way. So keeping leads warm is referring out. Right. Someone gets hurt. Eric, how many times a week are you reaching out to an orthopedic surgeon or to a PT or making a connection, being like, this isn't my thing. Let me introduce you to this awesome person. That is keeping the lead warm. And I'll let Eric elaborate on that before jumping into the answer to your question number 2.
I mean, honestly, it's daily, in some capacity, whether it's an actual initial referral or a follow-up or something on those lines. Like, it's one of the fortunate things about being in business as long as we have, and having some of the additional affiliations we have, is we can get in touch with the best orthos in the country and move these things along, and not just get people good care, but also get them in really, quickly. So I think there's also like an element of that speaks to maybe making people feel a bit more comfortable in what can otherwise be a stressful situation. Like, on a daily basis, I look at radiology reports and I say, hey, this is what this means. This is what this means. Here's why your shoulder is, is different than it might have been a year ago. And those things, they go a long way with people. It's just one more way, like I said, to add value. But but it's every day.
I mean, and that's some pretty powerful personalization. I got to imagine the traditional, the average strength coach is not reviewing radiology reports with their clients.
That's probably worth noting. My most effective, compelling sales tool ever was pre-COVID. Eric had facilitated a relationship with a surgeon locally where we could get our team in the room to observe relevant procedures that related to our community. And so I could actually get on a call and say, hey, every one of my full-time coaches has observed a Tommy John repair inside of the last 18 months. So not only do they understand how to build your son back, but they understand what happened during the 10 to 30 days before you showed up. And I mean, there is no more compelling angle from the perspective of a parent than that, because I will comfortably go on record and say to that parent, there's no gym on the planet that can make this statement. And it just closes business. So it started there.
You know what? I want to quickly piggyback. So I'm going to give a 30-second soapbox moment, just because I think what Mark said was really compelling in maybe an unintentional ways. The average strength coach isn't reviewing radiologist reports, but I was an average strength coach in 2007. I never aspired to do that. What I did was I worked really hard in a specific discipline to acquire some career capital, so to speak, and grew it. But you know what? This is like an important lesson for the gym owners listening. Like, figure out what you're not average in. Figure out what you're really exceptional in, right? Like, none of your staff members at age 13 said, you know what, I'm gonna go to college, get an exercise science degree, and I'm gonna be the guy that's in a leopard skin thong and unicorn mask on the sidewalk in front of Mark Fisher Fitness. But there are people that will do that for you at the drop of a hat. We don't have anybody on our staff that can do that. But I look around and, in our community, like Ben Fairchild's a buddy of mine in Houston who does a good job in the baseball training room. And I think he's phenomenal at what he does at integrating like the nutrition side of things and how he trains his guys. He's better than us in that regard. Like, there are certain people that do certain things particularly well. There are pitching coaches that can reshape an arm path faster than others. Like, we just get so caught up in trying to like regress people to the mean. And you and I both know, like, you see these applicants for job or for internships, and they're horrifically homogenous, right? They all have an exercise science degree. They have a letter of recommendation from their academic advisor at college. They usually they scooped ice cream in their summer jobs in high school. And then there's probably a recommendation from their high school soccer coach. Like, they are so homogenous across the board. Like, hey, tell me you know Spanish. Like, that immediately makes you a huge asset for us. Like, anything like that can differentiate you is so important. But when I hear them like, I can't do that, I'm like, yes, you can. Figure it out. Put the work in.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, I am reading Naval Ravikant's The Almanac of Naval again for like the third time, which is kind of embarrassing, as I now feel contractually obligated to obsess over Naval Fear at all in the world of the industrial thought leader complex. But one thing he talks about a lot is specific knowledge, right? Specific knowledge, like going deep, deep, deep on a thing. And it's interesting because depending on what your model is and who your target avatar is, that can look a little bit different. And certainly, obviously, both of our businesses have had massive success with like a super specific niche. And I think learning what are the particular things that you need to know for that kind of like avatar and going in. And to your point, like figuring it out, because you're right, like people aren't graduating college understanding how to read a radiology report is, I think maybe seems incomprehensible to many people, but in fact it's like, actually like, just go do it. Like you can do it. It's not easy, but just like go make it happen. Pete, I'm wondering if you can provide some thoughts on the second concern that I had, and this is like classic like podcasting where it's like, really, I'm getting free coaching from my friends. How do you establish a Switzerland sort of relationship, knowing that you've done this so well with all of these different people that are various body workers that you could refer out to? Because it contextualizes again for, let's say, your average training gym owner. Your version of this question is, well, you're in a certain market. How do you become Switzerland with like the number of coffee shops and the number of restaurants that you're looking to develop relationships with without it starting to feel like, oh, you're trying to be friends with everybody or prioritizing someone? Obviously, that it's not a perfect analogy, But that is actually something I've literally thought about as I go this ground game. And specifically where I've thought about is most relevant is exactly what you said, is as we look to develop a deeper relationships with a broader network of clinicians that we are actively sending business to, how does one maintain a Switzerland sort of stance?
Well, there are, in my experience, excuse me, two kinds of fear here. If you're the service provider on the outside looking in at this new relationship. So if it's Mark set up shop with, you know, his buddy with the PT just around the corner, and you're the PT 2 blocks over, and you're like, uh-oh, what's going on over there? There's the kind of fear that is, Mark just raised the flag and said, this is our PT. You come here, you meet this PT, you will never see anybody else. He's better than everybody else. Well, that's the like, all right, I got to defend my turf fear. But then there is the, if you do it the way we do it, Mark says, hey, there's an awesome PT over here. There are awesome PTs everywhere. But if you're looking for one over in this area, this guy's pretty cool. He knows his stuff. That becomes the FOMO fear. The kind of like, well, if it becomes especially dangerous when you establish that relationship with two PTs, because then everybody else is like, oh shit, I gotta move. Like I gotta get into that dynamic. They're building out a little bit of network. I can't be the one who's on the outside looking in while these credible coaches are looking legit over here. And so that's kind of a model we run with like our club program relationships. I mean, I've told you, we have put a third smaller, to a degree, like watered down version of CSP into a club program facility this summer. And we're not calling it a third CSP because that's not what it is, but it is an extension of our brand. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did before allowing that club owner to announce it on his social was call the owner of every club owner that we work with their athletes in the area. And I say, wow, hey, this thing's, just so you know, this thing's coming down the pipe. And it is in no way a declaration of our allegiance to one program. The minute you have space for this, we are building out a program and we are preparing the coaches for you to raise your hand and say, I'd like one. And I'd say, you know what? I like you. I've loved working with you. Yes, let's do this. And I'm not trying to prioritize one over another. I'm trying to help one community at a time. And every one of them first said, thank you. They're like, well, that's kind of refreshing. You didn't need to do that for me. Yeah. And then the rest of them, like across the board, how many square feet do I need? What do I need to do to outfit it? Because we can, in this circumstance, came into an equipped space. And they basically said to me, how can I be next in line when the opportunity presents itself? And right then and there, the new relationship did not become detrimental to all the other ones in our network. So I think the key to all of this is transparency, honesty, humility. Be direct. Don't be, don't build 5 different exclusive relationships, right? And look at people and kind of lie to them about where your intent lies.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think the thing I want to acknowledge about that I think is admirable, and I think that's also a lot of social intuition, I think, on your part to like think through what is the second and third order impact? How is this going to affect other people in our network? And I think that level of sensitivity to think in advance, how might other people feel about this emotionally, and not only mitigate the potential downside of establishing this one relationship, but create opportunity and possibility for other business opportunities, I think is super, super awesome.
Well, I needed to also, so it sounds like I'm only talking about everybody outside of that place, but I needed to make sure that the new partner understood that I was not giving him an exclusive. I needed to be very clear so that he didn't feel like I was cheating on him when I came to him and I said, hey, this other club, they've got a similar space. They're 35 miles away, so you really shouldn't be angry about this, but I know that if it catches you by surprise, that'd be really shitty. So just so you know, and I was so clear with him because he was scraping, clawing. He wanted to make that announcement on his social, and I was like, I just haven't got a hold of everybody yet. You got to hit the pause button. This is important to me. I'm calling this guy, and this guy. This is me saying to you, Mark, like I am calling the owner of every gym within a 5-mile radius of you to tell them that I'm going to do this with you and basically ask their blessing. And it set the tone very clearly. This is how we do business. We are excited to work with you, but we are not going to basically limit ourselves to one relationship, one community till the end of time, because we can't really fully vet our partners so effectively that we can just marry ourselves to them all in that kind of dynamic. Eric and I have not talked this through at length. So it's probably the first time he's hearing me kind of voice that mindset.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. It seems analogous to earlier you were making a comment that I would perhaps summarize as good networking is good friendshipping, right? Like good business networking is just like being a friend and being cool and like staying in touch with people. And that sounds to me like good professionalism is being emotionally thoughtful and emotionally sensitive to how this might impact people, clarifying expectations up front. Because of course, clarifying expectations is like 98% of everything communication and business. All right, my friends. Well, I think a final thing that I will share with our listeners that I'll be happy to sort of keep them posted on in the months to come is, like I said, at MFF, we are looking to do a better job of this. And if I were to maybe give a potential takeaway for people listening, if you're in a more modest training gym and you're just thinking about starting to do this, is I would encourage you to create maybe some target of a number of local businesses you're looking to partner with. Obviously, what Pete and Eric have done to great effect is working with people broadly in the world of clinicians and body workers. Again, based on your model, based on your app, based on where you are, yours might include, things like, I don't know, athletic wear or coffee shops or other local businesses in your area. And that might be something you even adopt. And of course, this is like, me getting like so like nerdy, like KPI-ish, because I love a KPI, potentially creating a particular target as far as how many businesses you're looking to create some kind of partnership with. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 25. Give yourself a deadline of when it's going to happen. And then be strategic about really analyzing your Google Maps and really analyzing a certain distance from your business and create a list of people that would be businesses that potentially could be good partners for your business. The other thing I want to highlight about this that Pete mentioned, I think is important to understand. And again, I always want to acknowledge when I'm talking from like first order knowledge or like, I think this makes sense. So I haven't done this yet, but I think this makes sense. This jives with my understanding of humans, is going with a giving hand too. And starting the relationships with how can I support your business? How am I going to refer business to you, rather than your naked ambition and desire to grow your business from this other business. That's not cool. That's not good friendshipping. Gentlemen, I want to make sure first, before I give you a chance to share anything else you want to share on this topic that is relevant, can you tell our listeners about the upcoming mentorship you're doing?
Eric, you want to hit it?
Sure. So one of the things that we kind of realized over the years was we would always have an open door policy at CSP. And so other trainers, business owners, folks like that would come in and shadow for a day. A lot of times it happened alongside our fall seminar, and they'd stick around and see it in action. And one of the actual bits of feedback that we always got was, I love your business model. And then what also happened, we would run our baseball mentorships. And what we realized is that a lot of the people who attended would be kind of like lingering in the doorway of Pete's office, peppering him with questions. And they tend to be a lot of the same questions. And I think it was a lot of people initially that wanted to grow businesses in that baseball specific realm. And we realized that our systems really could help a lot of people. So one of the things that we decided to do was eventually pull together a one-day event, that effectively taught people about how we looked at business specific to the fitness context, and what's worked for us, what hasn't, and, build it out. We taught it, I think it was 5 times in person before the world kind of shut down. And we actually did an online offering last September that was extremely well received. So we decided, before the world gets maybe officially all the way back to normal, we'd run one more online offering. So we're doing that August 25th and 26th this year.
And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's, I believe, in the middle of the day-ish. So people in different time zones will have an easier chance attending. Is that correct? Over 2 days?
It's multifaceted in that sense. It was to complement the gym owners who are tired of running split shifts but are still kind of changed to that. So it matches their day. And yeah, it gives people in other countries an opportunity to jump on board where appropriate. It doesn't mesh up real awesome with people in Australia and India, but it's pretty favorable timing wise for people in the UK. But yeah, we call it the CSP Business Building Mentorship. And best place to find that info is on Eric's website. I believe it's your most recent blog, or if you find this in the next couple of weeks and you got ericcressey.com, it'll be in the first handful of blogs that he's published as of late. And yeah, shoot me DMs if you have questions, because we'd love to have you. It's all on Zoom, and it's a Wednesday and a Thursday. Eric, is it the 25th and 26th of August?
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing is, Pete and I teach the overwhelming majority of it, but we do actually have our accountant as a guest lecturer, believe it or not. And what we found is the overwhelming majority of participants have actually found that the 1 hour accounting presentation completely covered with what they say. Yeah, it becomes an investment, non-expense. We actually had an individual, as a brief story, who attended it at our Florida facility. We offered it last year. He was a Seattle-based fitness operation, who, when the accountant presented, it got him, the wheels churning on his business classification, and he reclassified from an LLC to an S corp and saved himself $20,000 in taxes.
Oh my
so
gosh!
He sent Pete and I both a nice bag of coffee with an appreciative note. So it's a tax deductible expense if it's for your business. So it's something that I definitely would encourage people to check out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we'll definitely link to that in the show notes. And I just want to highlight for anyone listening that's considering doing this. Presumably, I'm not sure Eric's and Pete's intentions to do this online for forever. So if you're somebody looking to do this and it's not easy for you to get there, I think this is probably a good thing to jump on right away. Gentlemen, anything else you want to share about today's topic before we bring this to a close?
Last thing I'll say is, it does not take an Eric Cressey on your team to only go the ground game route. To be honest, these are foundational principles. And I think all brick and mortar business is small business. And our business grew like everyone else's. One client became two became three, and they brought friends. So don't fall back on that crutch. Well, Eric's got that huge brand,
right,
and we can't do it. These are tried and true systems that have built many a business in our industry and outside of it. So that's not an acceptable excuse.
Yeah. Just remember that, like you said, it only takes one, but look to your existing clientele first. Support their businesses when they're business owners that train with you. We run our insurance, our car, for our house and our car. We have a dental, an oral surgeon that we've referred a ton of people to over the years, who sent us more clients than I can imagine. So make sure you leverage the people who are already in your network before you go out and start knocking on doors for cold leads.
That's probably the best place to go to follow up on your assignment, Mark. You want to make your list, just ask your clients where to start. They're the ones who made all these connections. Every time Eric discovered a good practitioner in our area, it almost exclusively originated with a client being like, I see this person, and Eric saying, how do you like them? They seem pretty intelligent. Can you make an email introduction? That's how it all started. It wasn't like Eric hit Yellow Pages or Google search and was like, and now it's time for the 4 mile away physical therapist. Go. Yeah. It's all personal interaction.
Yeah, it's funny and hilarious. I hadn't completely thought about that actually, but as it happens, there's one dentist that virtually the whole team goes to. Our lawyer is a ninja. Our insurance broker is our ninja lawyer's father. So all good points. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for your time. Listeners, thank you as always for checking out the Business for Unicorns podcast. Do the things, click the things, like the things, subscribe to the things, and we will catch you soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it, and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.